Venice shouldn't exist. From a logical standpoint, it is the worst place on Earth to build a city. A salt marsh, a shifting lagoon, no fresh water, no stone, no forests, just unstable mud rising and falling with the tide. And yet, by the year 1100, while the rest of Europe built castles on hills and cities in fertile valleys, something impossible stood here. A stone metropolis floating on water. This isn't just architecture, it's survival. Because Venice wasn't built by conquerors, it was built by people running for their lives. As the Roman world collapsed, refugees fled waves of invasions. The Huns, the Goths, the Lombards, until they reached the edge of the sea. And when there was nowhere left to go, they went into the marsh. It was supposed to be temporary, a place where armies couldn't follow, but temporary became permanent. And by 1100, that desperate refuge had become one of the most powerful republics in Europe. But one problem never went away. How do you build a city on water? The answer is hidden beneath it. If you could drain the canals, you wouldn't see stone foundations. You'd see a forest. Millions of wooden stakes driven deep into the mud. Venetian builders pushed timber through soft sediment until it hit a dense clay layer called the Coranto. That created stability. And underwater, something remarkable happened. The wood didn't rot. With no oxygen, bacteria couldn't survive. Instead of decaying, the timber hardened, mineralized, almost turning into stone. Every building in Venice stands on that buried forest. A city balanced on petrified wood, precarious, unnatural, and yet it held. At the center of it all was Piazza San Marco, but in 1100, it wasn't the clean, open space we know today. It was smaller, rougher, even divided by a canal. The ground was uneven, muddy, crowded with merchants speaking languages from across the world. This wasn't just a square, it was a gateway between Europe and the East. And that influence is everywhere. Rising above it is St. Mark's Basilica. In 1100, it was the newest and most ambitious building in Venice. And it didn't look European, it looked Byzantine. 5 domes, a Greek cross design, gold mosaics covering every surface. Step inside, and the entire space glows. Not dark like northern churches, but radiant. Light bouncing off millions of tiny glass tiles, turning the ceiling into liquid gold. But the real power wasn't the architecture, it was what the building held. In 828, Venetian merchants stole the body of St. Mark from Alexandria. To smuggle it out, they hid it under raw pork, knowing guards wouldn't touch it. It worked. They brought a saint back to Venice, and that changed everything. This wasn't just a swamp settlement anymore. It had identity, legitimacy, power. Right beside it stood the Doge's palace, but in 1100, it wasn't elegant, it was defensive. Thick walls, narrow windows, towers. Because Venice was unstable, rival factions, internal conflict, constant threats. The Doge wasn't symbolic yet, he was a commander, and this palace was built like a bunker. Nearby, a narrow enclosed bridge stretched over the water, the Bridge of Sighs. It connected the palace to the prisons. Legend says prisoners paused there for one last glimpse of Venice before disappearing forever. In reality, you could barely see anything, but the story stuck because it captured something true. Venice was beautiful on the outside and ruthless underneath. Above it all rose the Campanile, part bell tower, part lighthouse. In a world without clocks, its bells controlled daily life, but more importantly, it guided ships, because Venice is incredibly difficult to navigate. Shallow waters, hidden mudflats. So by day, the tower reflected sunlight. By night, it burned with fire, a beacon pulling merchants home. And those merchants carried something more valuable than gold: access. To see it, you had to move like the Venetians did, by water. The Grand Canal. No roads, no horses, just movement through liquid streets. And at its center, the Arialto. Today, there's a stone bridge, but in 1100, it was floating, a chain of boats tied together. If a ship needed to pass, they simply untied it. This was the financial heart of Venice, the endpoint of the Silk Road. Spices from India, silk from the East. The air was thick with the smell of pepper, cinnamon,
cloves, wealth itself. And here, something revolutionary emerged: banking. Instead of carrying coins, merchants transferred value through written records. Faster, safer, scalable. Venice didn't just trade goods, it changed how trade worked. But wealth like this needed protection, and Venice built something no one else had: the arsenal, an early industrial complex. Ships weren't built individually, they were assembled. A vessel moved through stations, each adding a piece: hull, ribs, sails, weapons. A warship in a single day, controlled, efficient, secret. If outsiders got too close, they disappeared. This is what made Venice dominant: speed, control, naval power. But everyday life wasn't glamorous. Most houses were still wooden. Fire was a constant threat. And then there was water. Everywhere, but undrinkable. So Venice engineered a solution: rainwater collection. Every square acted like a funnel, draining water into underground filtration systems filled with sand. Entire neighborhoods survived on rainfall alone. Water wasn't just important, it was sacred. Poison it, and you were executed. The city itself wasn't unified, it was fragmented. Over 100 small islands, each with its own identity, its own rivalries. Fights broke out on bridges, literal brawls where people tried to knock each other into canals below. And those canals? They were also the sewer system. Twice a day, the tide flushed everything out. A natural system powered by the moon. Efficient, but far from clean. And yet, Venice thrived, because it controlled something essential: salt. Without it, food couldn't be preserved. Without preservation, cities couldn't grow. Venice turned salt water into wealth, taxed it, controlled it, built an economy on it. And they traded with anyone, even enemies. We are Venetians first, Christians second. That mindset made them rich and dangerous. Standing on the docks of the Rialto in 1100, watching the sun set over the lagoon, you would feel it. Instability, ambition, momentum. A place that should have failed, but didn't. Because Venice didn't fight its environment, it mastered it. It took the worst land imaginable and turned it into one of the most powerful cities on Earth.